The case shared today took place in Palmdale, California, USA. It is located in the desert region of Southern California. It is approximately 60 miles away from Los Angeles, with a population of around 170,000. It is a city north of Los Angeles. The protagonist, Linnell, is born in 1980 in Los Angeles County into an ordinary family. He is the third child in the family. He has two older brothers, who are 4 to 8 years older. The star in him and two younger siblings, who are 6 to 10 years younger. As the middle child, Linnell became an important link between his siblings and took on much of the responsibility for mediating family matters. This unique upbringing not only improved his communication skills, but also helped him develop an independent personality, making him appear more mature and steady compared to his peers. According to his family, Linnell was always a very intelligent child who knew how to use his strengths to make informed decisions. Don Ian's, for example, in his teens he had already made plans for his future. He wanted to become a licensed nurse first, and then open a nursing home. As the first step toward this goal, though however at that time, the two of them were not in a romantic relationship, but merely friends. After completing his nursing studies, Linnell continued his education at California State University, Long Beach until he obtained his license as a licensed nurse. It was only then that they began to date formally. In the following years, Linnell and Louise worked hard together to realize their goal of opening a nursing home. During this period, Linnell became a nurse at a psychiatric hospital and also did part-time work at several medical institutions, while Louise followed in his footsteps, working on street maintenance tasks and also studying nursing-related courses. Around 2009, they finally met all the necessary conditions to start their business. They had saved enough money and they completed the required training. That year, they bought a spacious row house in Palmdale to use as both their office and residence. However, before they could even begin their new life, problems arose in their relationship. Perhaps Louise had adapted to American life or saw potential for making money in the future. But after moving into their new home, he changed his frugal habits and started spending recklessly. This caused great dissatisfaction among Linnell, who was mainly responsible for seeing Lauren's panic. The police immediately realized the seriousness of the situation and went to Linnell and Louise's resi. Is done with her. Is following the location of the body that Lauren provided. The police found Linnell in the garage. He was almost unrecognizable. Is done with a black garbage bag covering his face and a gunshot wound through the back of his head. Is next to the body was a black car with a dirty carpet inside. A bed is done and a sofa that had been shot through. Is outside the car was a small spare tire belonging to the vehicle. In addition, the police also detected traces of blood in the living room, not far from the garage. His tools used to clean up the blood stains were also found in the laundry room. Based on this series of discoveries, the police have gained a general understanding of how the crime occurred. They believe that the garage was not the primary crime scene. Rather, the body was wrapped in a carpet in the living room and then dragged next to the car in the garage. The reason for this action may be that the murderer planned to put the body in the car trunk and they is done to destroy all evidence of the crime. This hypothesis, however, a few weeks before the crime, Louis accidentally found Linnell's spare phone and learned about their affair. This led to another violent argument between them, especially 3 days before the crime. When their conflict escalated further, resulting in a tragedy. Lauren stated that the escalating tension between Louis and Linnell was mainly due to jealousy. During the period when they were arguing, Lauren was helping Linnell with her hair, so she witnessed what happened firsthand. 3 days before the crime, Louis and Linnell argued every day. The first argument was because Ike called their home. Which angered Louis, and they fought over this. The second argument was because Louis found that Linnell was still using her spare phone. This suggested she might still be in contact with Ike. The third argument occurred on the day of the crime, when Louis secretly took Linnell's spare phone. While leaving the house, which angered her. When they returned home at noon, they argued again about the phone. Seeing that another conflict was about to happen, Lauren decided enough was enough. She had just wanted to help Ranal with her hair in peace. But instead she found herself acting as a mediator between the couple. Constantly worried about their in that life or death moment, Lauren grabbed her handbag and ran barefoot out of the house, narrowly escaping danger. Lauren's account provided crucial clues for the police, but before proceeding with further investigations, they needed to resolve one question. After Lauren arrived at the police station, the officers checked her belongings for safety reasons and found a pistol bullet in her handbag. So why this bullet was in her handbag puzzled the police, so they questioned Lauren again. According to her, the bullet was originally on the counter at the crime scene, door where she had placed her handbag and car keys. It must have fallen into her handbag while she was taking the keys. Although Lauren's explanation sounded a bit far-fetched, it provided a possible explanation. However, considering his situation at that time, such a possibility could be completely ruled out. Therefore, the police decided to overlook this detail and directly investigate whether Luis was suspected of the Dory crime. To this end, they contacted Ranel's mother, Bobby. According to Bobby, the relationship between Luis and Ranel was indeed very tense. Don and Luis had previously shown aggressive behavior. About a week before the incident, he smashed Ranel's car. Luis denied any connection to the crime and claimed that he and Ranel got along well and that he had never known about Ranel's infidelity. According to Luis, on the day of the incident, Don he had gone to Los Angeles to repair his car and then visited his parents there in the evening. He spent the rest of the time with his family and had no idea about Ranel's death. After hearing Luis's account, the police raised doubts. First, there was an obvious scratch on his face which matched the description given earlier by Lorraine, indicating that their relationship was not harmonious. Second, Ranel had clearly stated in her reply that she and Ike were moving to another city, meaning Luis must have been aware of her affair, which contradicted his claims. Luis explained that they had indeed had a conflict before the incident, but eventually reconciled. Don and their relationship remained unaffected. As for Ranel's reply, Luis insisted he had never seen it and had no idea about the nature of Ranel's relationship with Ike. Seeing that Luis refused to admit anything, the police decided not to waste any more time and arrested him. After the interrogation, they collected Lorraine's biological information and conducted a thorough investigation. To their surprise, they discovered that Lorraine and Renal were not friends, but former lovers who had met through a dating website. About 2 weeks before the incident, their relationship had moved from online to offline, and they had engaged in intimate activities to make it easier to date Renal. Lorraine had moved to the city where Renal lived. However, Renal then broke up with her, citing the improved relationship between her and Luis as the reason. Although Lorraine verbally agreed to the breakup, her responses suggested that she was not truly willing to end the relationship. Therefore, the police concluded that the breakup was the main motive behind Lorraine's actions. Not long after, the police found a large amount of crucial evidence that supported their suspicions. Firstly, that letter signed by Laniel was identified by myself as having been written by Lorraine. Secondly, DNA from Lorraine was also found on the disposable gloves and containers discovered at the crime scene. Therefore, this series of evidence is sufficient for the police to arrest Lorraine. Of course, there was no doubt whatsoever about bringing charges of murder. However, due to the lack of evidence, the proceedings were Dawn and then wrapped Llanelli's body in a carpet and dragged it to the garage. Initially, Dawn he might have planned to make it seem like the case was just a missing persons case. Dawn because the area is mostly desert. Dawn disposing of the body and criminal evidence would not have been difficult. That is why Lorraine spent a lot of time cleaning up the crime scene. However, Dawn at the end of the cleanup process, either due to Lorraine's height or Llanel's weight, Lorraine was unable to put the body in the car trunk. As a result, Lorraine had to resort to a backup plan and try to frame Louis for the crime. On one hand, Dawn he knew that there were emotional issues between Louis and Llanel. On the other hand, Dawn he was aware of many of Llanel's secrets. Is so Lorraine fabricated a so-called farewell letter and concocted a story about having witnessed the is Dawn S. Lum. Is in August 2015, 5 years after Linnell's death, the case went to trial. Is Lorraine was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for first-degree